In this video, I'm walking through my process for doing keyword research and building a content plan for a B2B site. And this is something you could replicate for any industry, but I'm using metal fabrication as an example. First thing to do would be either have some information about the company that you're working with or information about your company. But in this case, I don't have that. So I'm going to just I'm just going to go into ChatGPT and ask it to help me provide some of this initial information. I need to do keyword research. Let's change this. I need to build a content plan for a metal fabrication company. Give me a list of keywords, phrases to use to describe company, their services, industries, applications they provide. So what this will do then is give us some information that we can then organize into a content plan. And then I'll use Ahrefs as well to get some additional information and figure out the search volume, things like that. Now, as that is working here, I'm in Miro to show you basically the general principle for building content in this fashion and how the overall structure would look like from a content and a high level perspective. So what we would do, and what I'm planning to do here, is to build basically what's called a pillar or clusters. So we want to have content that is related to each other, linked together on the site. So what we would have is a pillar or a primary post. So we'll just call it pillar in this case. And then we would have sub pillars underneath it or around it, however you want to term that. And we would have all of these. So this would be a subtopic. And in general, the pillar post is going to be the most search volume and or the highest conversion focus that we want to have, or more of a, what would be called a money page. So this would be what we would really want to focus on ranking. So this is where you would likely drive initial link building efforts to as well. And then these pages here are going to be longer tail keywords, which means they'd be longer and likely less competition as well. We'll just do this. And then next thing to do also is to link these together. These sub pages or sub posts would link back up to the primary. Also, they could link to each other. So these would have internal links between them as well. Forgive those drawings. So let's see where we're at here. Now we have some information here. So we have metal fabrication company. This would either be likely the home page or a primary page. And then we have service capabilities, CNC laser cutting, materials, stainless steel. So we probably have a page for stainless steel as well. Industries served, we'd have industry pages as well. And the way you can think about this would be to build pillars or clusters around each of these. So we can have a cluster about aerospace and defense fabrication, and that would be the primary pillar. And then you'd have these subpages about those topics, talking more about them if necessary. If not, then you would just have a primary page for that target keyword. Let me clean up these arrows. Okay, so then we could do a couple different things here. Either start to organize this manually, and if this is your business and you're going through this process, it is probably something you could do relatively quickly and easily. But if you are doing this and you don't know the industry very well, like me right here, then I could ask for group these together into specific related, let's do that, to related pillars with supporting topics that would be under them and link to them. So I'll run this prompt here as this is going. And then once this completes here, then we can start to populate the sheet here, and then also look at some search data as well. But the other thing to think about here as you're going through this is this pillar here, we don't have to just have it set up like this. Like for example, if we have dozens of topics, then this can just continue on further. Secondly, would be building additional subtopics if necessary as well that link to each other and to the primary pillar. Now, a couple things to keep in mind here is the value and the importance of internal linking your content together. And I'll actually show you as we get some of this built out, I'll show you what this would look like with actual content topics here. So supporting metal fabrication services would be a pillar, it says here. Materials we fabricate. So this would be a good one. Let's do this. Materials we fabricate. So this would be the primary pillar here. And so this would be materials we fabricate would be the primary page, and make this nice. And then we have stainless steel, aluminum, all of these other ones. So I'll go in here, just paste all these in here and cut this out quickly. All right, so that is how you can initially look at this from that perspective. Now, the other way to look at it, and part of this is just how it works in your brain for organization. But if you also look at it like this, where we have a cluster, so we have a primary topic here, and then we have all of these subclusters or subtopics, I should say, that link to this primary one. And these arrows represent internal links within the content. So the way this would be set up then is you would have a primary page that is optimized for metals we fabricate. Then you would have internal pages on your site that are optimized for stainless steel fabrication, aluminum fabrication, and so on. All of these would be pages on your site. And the arrows then, you would have an internal link to this page talking about this is one of the materials we fabricate. And I would recommend mixing up the internal linking, of course, the anchor text, I should say, on these pages. Now, the other thing is, as necessary and as it makes sense, linking these pages together as well. If you're talking about stainless steel versus galvanized steel, or the differences between them, then it would make sense to have a link from this page to the galvanized steel page. Same thing here with brass and copper, heavy gauge, so on. Any of these that would make sense can link together. And again, the value here is number one, this provides search engines and AI with an understanding about where to go on your site. And from a URL perspective, a URL structure, what you would want to do is keep URLs as close to the root as possible. What I mean by that is if we are looking at, let's just take this pillar, for example, here. So this is huge, first of all. Let's undo some of these things. Now, let me just clean this up. So now we have the primary pillar here, metals we fabricate, and then we have all of these subtopics. And the way I would recommend structuring this, and the way that works very well from an optimization perspective, is to work to have the URL structure as close to the root or as close to your homepage as possible. So this, let's just say for the sake of this example, your website is premiummetal.com. So that's your homepage. So the page here for metals we fabricate, materials we fabricate, would be something like premiummetal.com/materials we fabricate. So that would be the URL for this page itself. Then for any of these other ones, you would follow a similar structure. It would be /stainless steel fabrication and so on. Now there's a couple of ways you could do this as well. One would be to have it as premiummetal.com/materials we fabricate and so on. So you do /stainless, or you can do /stainless steel. Actually would make sense there as well. But going this route with your URLs makes it a little bit more difficult for search engines like Google to understand and crawl your site. You're giving it more work to do. And as you build further content and bigger pillars on your site and bigger content sections, this can get extremely redundant as well. Because if you have additional information under stainless steel fabrication, like let's just check this out, stainless steel fabrication. So there are 670 additional keywords and phrases that include stainless steel fabrication. So it probably makes sense to have additional pages for these as well. Stainless steel sheet metal, that one's okay there. Stainless steel tank fabrication, pipe fabrication. If these are extremely different services, then it may make sense to have individual pages targeting these processes. Stainless steel tube fabrication, like I said, I'm not exactly sure how different it is to make a sheet versus a tube versus some of these other things here, pipes. So working through that process and figuring that out can make this process a little bit easier as well as you're building out this content process. And what I'm part of what I'm saying here is, as you're building this out, if you were to go with this URL structure here, then you would eventually have something like this: stainless steel, or premiummetal.com, materials we fabricate, stainless steel, tubing, and then piping, sheets, whatever. Or the other way to do it would be premiummetal.com/stainless steel tubing, or something like that, or tube fabrication. And because you don't have fabrication in your top level domain, including it in a URL like this is something that would likely help you rank better as well for a specific key phrase like stainless steel tube fabrication. And disregard, this is not related to this. This was a separate example here I was talking about. So this is something that I would generally recommend from a URL structure perspective, keeping the primary target that you want to rank for in your URL as close to your homepage, or as close to the left of right after the .com, .net, .org, whatever you have. Keep it closest to that as you can in most cases, because as you start to build these nested URL structures, it makes it more difficult for your site to be crawled and indexed. Now, one quick note here, as you're building this, if you were to follow this structure and wanting to build out content in this fashion, what I would recommend is going about it a way like this. So you would have your primary URL or your root URL, and then you would have the URL for this page. But I would have a section here that has just either the slug or the full URL. And a slug would be something like just this, just the stainless steel fabrication. So you would have something like this, aluminum fabrication, and then carbon and so on. I think you get the point here. Carbon, cold rolled steel fabrication. Then as you're building content, and if you were doing this before and you were to write your stainless steel fabrication page, then you would have to go back later if you added these pages after the fact to add internal links to these pages. Because if you remember, the goal is to link these pages together as they are relevant and as it makes sense. If you do not have this information already set up with how you're going to optimize these individual URL structures, it's going to be difficult for you to add these internal links as you're creating the content. What I'm getting at here is if you have this in place and you're writing this content and you're planning to publish the content relatively closely together, you can add internal links from your stainless steel fabrication page to your aluminum fabrication page because you already understand how the URL is going to be set up and structured. In this case, then, as you're building this content, you can link to the aluminum page before it's even written and published. Again, as long as you're going to have it published relatively shortly after you publish the first page, because otherwise you can get 404 errors and things like that. But this can save you some time if you're doing a batch of content and doing this all in one day or something. Creating this content and adding these internal links from the start can save you some time during this process and keep you organized as you're looking to build other internal links from your content as you're building out this structure. Hopefully you got some value from this video. If you did, subscribe to my channel. I plan to continue posting more videos like this, sharing processes and strategies for helping you rank your B2B site better, get more traffic, and generate more revenue from your site. And that's it. I'll see you in the next one.